Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video we are going to look at a past exam paper. Now one part of that paper, one part of that question we have already done that in the basis period, which was peak within Baracco. Now in this lecture we are going to look at part B of that, which is relevant to residence. Now if you look at part B, on part B A requirement, it says explain why Baracco will not satisfy. Just bear me 1 second while I've already shared the question with you through the screenshot option. So explain why Baracco will not satisfy any of the automatic overseas resident test for the tax year 18-19. So he's asking why Mr. Baracco will not satisfy automatic overseas test. Tell why. So there are 3 automatic overseas tests. We will have to see any of them apply on here or not. And if it does not apply, then we'll have to communicate to examiner. And after that it says on the assumption that he does not satisfy any of the automatic UK resident test. So assumption is that he is not satisfying automatic UK resident test. Explain how his resident status will be determined for that tax year. Right, so first of all we'll have to see the information about Baracco. Baracco links with the country of Canasta, which is overseas country. Baracco is domiciled in Canasta. Baracco owns a home in the country of Canasta. Baracco's only income in respect of the investment property is in Canasta. Baracco frequently buys and sells properties in Canasta. None of the information is relevant to me. Now, what was overseas automatic test? If you just open up your notes and go to residence, or if you have already learned them rules, very good. Could you tell me what were the rules about automatic UK overseas test? Sorry, automatic overseas test. So what were the tests which will determine that yes, that person is automatically overseas? Yes, one was 16-day rule, other one was 46-day rules, and the third one was that someone who is working overseas full-time and they are not living more than 90 days in the UK. Right, so there were 3 rules. Now he's not working he's not working full-time overseas, as it says the only income is in respect of the investment properties in Canasta, which is telling me that he's not working overseas. So that information is not relevant. Now there is no information about UK here, that how many days he spent in the UK or in overseas. Now if you read the second requirement, which is about the UK, now in the last information which is provided in that, it says Baracco expect to live in the UK house for between 100 and 150 days in the tax year 2018-19. So this information tells me that he's not lived overseas. He's not lived in the UK for less than 46 days. So he is in the UK for more than 46 days. So of course he's not automatically overseas. Right? So he might be UK resident, but he's not automatic. He might be automatically UK resident, but he's not automatically overseas. Right? So we have concluded because he's lived more than 46 days in the UK. So which tells me that he's not automatically overseas, and he's not working full-time overseas anyway. So that information is it won't apply anyway. So if you come to the after that, the remaining part of the question, it says on the assumption that he's automatically he does not satisfy automatic UK resident. So the assumption is he does not satisfy automatic UK resident. So you do not have to worry about automatic UK resident tests. So examiner told in that exam in his examiner comments that despite of the fact that I told students that there is an assumption of automatic. There is no need to do the automatic UK resident test. Despite of the fact I communicated to the students still wrote about automatic UK resident. Right? So always read the requirement first, what the examiner is asking. In this question, it says that on the assumption that he does not satisfy any of the automatic UK resident tests. So if there is an assumption, just believe examiner, that examiner is saying he does not satisfy any of the UK resident tests. So you do not have to test him that if he does satisfy automatic UK resident tests or not. Alright, so you do not have to worry about that. You will not gain any marks explaining automatic UK resident tests. Right, so after that it says explain his residence status, how his residence status will be determined that year. So say for example, if someone who is not automatically non-UK resident and he is not automatically UK resident, how will that person's UK resident status will be determined? Now there was sufficient ties test or UK ties test. How many connection that person has with the UK? So you will have to see that. And also we have to see that how many days he spent in the UK. We know that he spent 100 and 150 days in the UK, from 100 to 150 days, and we don't know that how many ties he has, so we'll have to see in the question. So Bracco's links with the UK. Bracco has ex-wife and 12-year-old daughter moved to the UK on 1st of May 2017. So this is a tie because having a close family member in the UK is a tie. So this is a tie. This is one tie. Bracco first visited in the UK in the tax year 17-18, but was not resident in the tax year. So he was not previously UK resident. So that is, it doesn't tell me about anything about the UK tie. And then after that, Bracco did not own a house in the UK until he purchased one on 6th of April 2018. Now he purchased a house in the UK. Now it will not be a tie until he lived in that house. In the second information, he says that Bracco expects to live in the house for between 100 and 150 days in the tax year 2018-19. So he lived in the UK for 100 to 150 days in the UK. So that is a tie as well. Now only thing, Bracco first visited in the UK in the tax year 17-18, but was not a UK resident in that year. So it is not a tie. We are not sure about it because we have to see that how many days he actually spent in the UK. Right, so now please open up your notes and see the UK ties. Now in the UK tie it says having a close family member, so that was a tie in here. Having a house in the UK which is made use of at least 90 days, so that is a tie as well in this case. Doing substantial work in the UK 40 days or more, it doesn't tell any information about that. Being in the UK for more than 90 days during either of the previous previous tax years, either of the previous 2 tax years. Now although he came to the UK in the previous tax year, but he was not resident. Although he was not resident, but even if he was not resident, but he spent 90 days in the UK, then it will tell us that it is a tie as well. So we are not sure about the third tie, but we are sure about 2 ties. So there are there are 2 perfect ties which we are sure about. There is one possible tie which we are not sure about, that and we'll have to see that how many days he actually spent. If he spent, although he came last year, but he was not resident, but we're not sure that how many days he spent last year. If he spent 90 days or more, then that will be a perfect tie as well. What is the proper word for that? I'm out of my vocabulary. So that is a proper tie, but there is one possible tie as well. All right, so we're not sure about that. And then after that it says that being in the UK for 90 days that's what we have done. Spending more time in the UK than in any other country, so there is no information about that. Now we have to see that how many days he spent. He spent from 100 to 150 days. Now if you look at your table, which will be given to you in the exam as well. Now I'm looking at my notes table. Please open up that table as well in front of you. So if you spend we know that he spent 100 to 150 days in the UK, then it doesn't matter that how many days he actually spent in the UK, he will be UK resident. Alright, so because there are 2 possible ties and 1 definite tie. So that was the words which I was looking for. So there is 1 definite sure tie and 1 is possible tie. Alright, so that's it. And so that's how we will determine. So it depends on that how many days he actually spent in the UK. So after that we will be able to determine. Right. So this requirement was for 7 marks. So we have to explain to the examiner that why he was not automatically non-resident. So that will earn you 1 mark. Then you will have to explain that how many ties he has. So he has 1 family tie. Then he has 1 tie that he has a home in the UK which he has used, so that is another mark for you. Then we have to explain that he came to the UK last year, but he spent 90 if he spent 90 days or not, we are not sure about it. If he spent 90 days or more than that, that will be a tie as well, so that will earn you another mark. So likewise, and after that you will have to explain that he spent 100 to 150 days in the UK. So we are not sure about that how many days he actually spent. So if he has 3 UK ties, doesn't matter how many days he spent in the UK, he will be UK resident. However, if he has 2 UK ties, then he will have to spend more than 120 days in order to be considered UK resident. All right. And in the B requirement, the second requirement of the same question, it says on the assumption that Bracco is resident in the UK in the tax year 2018-19, on the assumption he's resident, state the tax implications for him claiming the remittance basis for the tax year and explain whether or not there would be a remittance basis charge. Now, what would happen if he claimed the remittance basis? If he claimed the remittance basis because he's resident, he's claiming the remittance basis, he will be subject to UK resident test on the. He will be subject to UK income tax and the gains which he brought in the UK. So which he brings in the UK, the income and the gains which he bring in the UK, which he remit in the UK, he will have to pay UK income tax on that. And if he claim the remittance basis, then he will not get personal allowance, and he won't get the capital gains annual exemption. He won't get that as well. And on top of that, he might have to pay the remittance basis charge, which in this case he will not have to pay because he's not long-term resident in the UK. Only the person who spent at least 7 out of 9 previous years in the UK, they will have to pay remittance basis charge. In this case, he hasn't spent that much time, so he will not have to pay remittance basis charge. Alright. However, if he did not have claim, now this information is not relevant to this question. I'm just telling you the information. You do not have to put this in the answer. But just in case if he did not had claim the remittance basis, if the remittance basis was automatically available, the 2,000 limit, if you remember, unremitted foreign gains and income is less than £2,000, and then in that case, the remittance basis will be available automatically. And now if it is automatically available, then he will get the personal allowance, and he will also get the capital gains, and he will not have to pay a remittance basis charge. Alright, so that was just a revision for you. I will see you in the next video lecture, and then we will continue with our journey of ACC advanced taxation. Just redo this question and all the questions which we are going through, which we are doing in our lectures. Please make sure you redo all of these questions, especially the ones which needs writing. This one, the residence question which we have just done, it needs writing. It is not a calculation question, it is just a writing question. It is testing your ability to how you apply the theoretical knowledge, how you write. So that is the difference between F6 and P6. So you have to write these questions yourself, and then you will be able to practice it in a better way, and if possible sit a mock exam as well with the AccountancyTube, so that you can test your exam skills, that how fit you are to appear in the exam, and what mistakes are you doing, which you will be doing in the real exam. So you will have a chance to assess your mistakes well before your real exam. I will see you in the next video, then we will continue with our advanced taxation. Goodbye.